Someone Bard here, and welcome to the last installment of Happy Sulli-Days. If you may have noticed, there is a bit of a pattern going on here. First, I reviewed the Nutcracker in the Four Realms last month, then my Happy Sulli-Days opening showcased Nutcrackers, and my last video of the month is about the Nutcracker. One that bombed at the box office, but has gained such a big cult following, which to me is, well, let's take a look. Made by the Canadian animation studio Lancewood Production and released by Warner Brothers, the film is called The Nutcracker Prince. The movie is based on the story The Nutcracker and the Mouse King by E.T.A. Hoffman, and the Nutcracker Ballet with music by Peter Lynch-Tchaikovsky, and both have been made into many film adaptations, which usually were critical and box office flops. On Christmas Eve at an annual Christmas party, Clara and her family get visited by their uncle Drosselmeyer, who brings gifts for the family, including a nutcracker for Clara. Yet Drosselmeyer tells the story of the Nutcracker, as he was a young man named Hans, who worked with Drosselmeyer to help break the curse of Princess Pirlipat, who's turned ugly by the Mouse Queen. So to do so, every man in the kingdom had to break a nut with their teeth, without wearing boots and walking 7 or 10 steps backwards. The blindfold is to keep them from seeing Pirlipat's ugliness. But as every man fails, Hans manages to break the nut, give it to Pirlipat, and the spell is broken. Yet the Mouse Queen puts a curse on Hans, turning him into a nutcracker, which leads to the Mouse Queen getting killed and ending Drosselmeyer's story. But by midnight, Clara goes to get her nutcracker, and through Drosselmeyer's magic, she finds her nutcracker and the toys coming to life, battling an army of mice led by the Mouse King, who seeks his revenge on the nutcracker for causing his mother's death, who is the Mouse Queen. And all the while, Clara wonders if Drosselmeyer's story is true or not. As much as I love the music from the Nutcracker and the story and the ballet in some parts, my overall feeling for it is meh. But this adaptation is something else, and I can sum it up in 3 words: dull and boring. Now that's not to say it's all dull and boring, because parts of it are so odd and out there that they are the main highlights, in particular with the Nutcracker origin segment. The way it's done is, in my opinion, so bad it's good. Firstly, the animation style is pretty cartoony that it really differs from the rest of the animation. And yes, I get that the style and the story is supposed to be different, like it's a fairy tale, but it's pretty nonsensical in the execution that I have to question the nature of it. Like, why don't the men just crack the nut? Why do they have to not wear boots and walk backwards? Doesn't it complicate things for a simple task? Why use a nut that clearly states it's a crack-a-tooth nut? And how does a nut break Pirlipat's curse? How does the Mouse Queen's bite work in 2 ways, one to make Pirlipat look ugly and another to turn Hans into a nutcracker? Don't get me started. I'm willing to accept that if I enjoyed the whole film, and I don't. Not to mention the segment is kind of annoying in the audio department, with lots of screaming, crying, and grunting, usually from the King and Pirlipat. But like I said, the segment is pretty cartoony and differs from the rest of the film that's so bad it's good, and to where the most bit of fun lies, because the rest of it isn't that strong. The rest of the animation is awkwardly treated. The character movements are sometimes not natural. The designs feel flat and even creepy, and it all looks pretty bleak and drab and not carrying any kind of hint of a Christmas feeling. The characters are sometimes really not that engaging, sometimes with the side characters, in particular with the old soldier named Pantaloon. He's given a bit of screen time about himself, but it isn't much for me to get invested in him, even when he takes a fall and has to be fixed. And the use of the Nutcracker music is a mixed bag. Sometimes it works, like the one dance scene between the prince and Clara, and sometimes it feels off, like the battle with the mice, which is really awkwardly handled in the animation that I started to feel bored by that point, and I didn't care what was happening, or what is going to happen. And the actors voicing the characters don't add much to it. Kiefer Sutherland voices the Nutcracker Prince and Hans, Megan Follows voices Clara, Peter O'Toole voices Pantaloon, Peter Borkestein voices Drosselmeyer, Phyllis Diller voices Mouse Queen, and Mike McDonald voices the Mouse King. As a whole, this movie is pretty dull, and also kind of forgettable. The characters don't feel interesting, the story, while fine, isn't much, and the animation feels pretty odd. Director Paul Schreibel had turned out a film that I couldn't find ways to grasp onto, even as a kid. While the Nutcracker origin had animation that's so cartoony, it's more enjoyable on a so bad it's good vibe. But everything else is boring and not engaging, and just oddly handled. I didn't find any investment in any of the characters, most of the animation I feel is rather awkward, and its use of the Nutcracker music has its ups and downs, yet it's sort of wasted in certain scenes. As far as other Nutcracker film adaptations go, this one's really weak, more so than The Four Realms or the one with Macaulay Culkin. So today, this movie we get a rating of 2 stars. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, support me on Patreon, tune in next year for a new video, and have a Happy New Year!